Observe the world around you, and you will see a desperate search for companionship, an almost instinctive fear of silence and one's own presence. But from the avatar's perspective, the ability to be alone is not a social flaw or a sign of emotional isolation. It is, in fact, one of the deepest hallmarks of high intelligence and personal mastery. For many, loneliness is a wound that needs to be staunched with noise and external validation. But for the awakened mind, solitude is a state of absolute freedom. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the keenest observers of human nature, understood that a man can only be truly himself when he is alone. High intelligence acts as a lens that reveals the illusions of social conformity, and those who see through these layers often discover that solitude is not an exile, but a refuge for the development of the self. This preference does not stem from trauma or an inability to connect, but from a refined biology that operates on a different frequency. Modern science reveals that the dopamine system of a highly intelligent person functions with superior sensitivity, while individuals with a need for constant stimuli require intense and noisy social interactions to feel pleasure, like someone who needs an exaggerated dose of chili to taste their food. The intelligent mind has a much lower social spice tolerance. A single deep dialogue or a moment of silent observation is enough to reach the ideal level of stimulation. What society labels as antisocial is, in fact, unsociability, the calm, confident, and deliberate preference for one's own company without the fear of rejection or the need for external approval. While the world believes you are merely idle or lost in thought, your brain is, in fact, performing a sacred work of internal construction. During periods of solitude, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for complex thought, self-reflection, and problem-solving, enters a state of intensified activation. It is not procrastination, but germination. The most brilliant minds in history, such as Einstein and Newton, did not achieve their flashes of genius amidst the chaos of crowds, but in the fertile vacuum of isolation. It is in silence that your mind stops merely reacting to the environment and begins to create realities, simulating futures and unraveling mysteries that social noise would never allow access to. Understand, for the avatar, being alone is the act of returning home, to the only place where your intelligence can expand without the shackles of others' expectations. This need for solitude becomes even more evident when we understand what Schopenhauer called the will of the masses. For the avatar, what society defines as social interaction is, in fact, a form of collective intellectual suicide. Most people live in a state of echo. Their opinions, values, and even their emotional reactions do not belong to them, being shaped by social pressures and the media they consume. However, the highly intelligent mind makes a terrifying discovery. The moment you integrate into a group, your full cognitive capacity is compromised. Even without realizing it, part of your brain stops seeking truth to monitor social dynamics, manage the image you project, and seek approval or harmony. This automatic mechanism of social cohesion drains your originality and makes you less willing to pursue uncomfortable yet necessary thoughts. The intelligent person who chooses solitude has decided that unrestricted access to their own mind is infinitely more valuable than the validation of those who cannot think for themselves. For the wise, intellectual independence is not a luxury, but an essential condition for existence. This preservation of the mind leads us to the fourth struggle, the management of the attention economy. The avatar understands that mental energy is a finite and extremely precious resource. Every social interaction, no matter how simple, demands a very high cognitive tax. You are not just hearing words, you are processing tones, hidden agendas, unspoken expectations, and complex interpersonal mathematics. People of superior intelligence often calculate this cost and realize that most casual interactions do not offer a return commensurate with the drain they cause. By choosing isolation, you are protecting your capacity for deep focus and your creative energy against the fragmentation of the external world. While others pride themselves on having an agenda full of shallow connections, you prioritize depth over breadth, understanding that your work and personal development demand a level of dedication that social noise simply does not allow. Your solitude is the trench where you protect your genius. Your silent presence often acts as a psychological mirror that society fears to face. Under the avatar's gaze, understand that deep intelligence not only introduces new ideas, it reflects back the limitations and comfort zones of those around you. This phenomenon, known as the mirror effect, is why your silence or your ability to question what everyone accepts as truth generates an almost palpable discomfort. Unlike physical strength or wealth, which are external qualities, intelligence is deeply linked to identity and ego. Upon encountering someone who operates on a superior frequency, others often feel a primal threat in their amygdalae, the region of the brain responsible for danger detection. For many, your mere existence forces a confrontation with their own mediocrity, activating defense mechanisms that result in exclusion or hostility. This social resistance is the price of originality, for the incubation of genius necessarily requires a social vacuum to flourish. The avatar observes that the greatest contributions to humanity never emerged from brainstorming sessions or collective consensus, but from the depths of minds that had the courage to be profoundly alone. Newton, Einstein, Darwin, and Schopenhauer himself built their empires of thought during periods of prolonged isolation, where the mind is free to wander through territories that social thought would never dare to explore. When you are surrounded by other people, your cognitive capacity is drained by the automatic need to monitor dynamics and avoid conflicts. Only in absolute solitude can you access your full intellectual capacity, allowing insights that seemed invisible to become unquestionable truths. Solitude, therefore, is not a state of scarcity, but of creative abundance. While society views isolation as a punishment, the highly intelligent mind experiences it as a luxury, having learned to transform the internal world into a universe so vast and fascinating that external stimulation becomes redundant. For the avatar, true mastery lies in the ability to find infinite fascination in the functioning of one's own consciousness, without depending on the empty spectacle of the world outside. It is in this sacred space, far from the pressure for conformity, that you cease to be a mere consumer of information and become an architect of your own reality, developing an intellectual independence that is, for the system, the most dangerous form of power. By stepping away from constant noise, you develop what the avatar calls an anthropological vision, the rare ability to observe society from the outside. While most are immersed in status games, microaggressions, and power dynamics without even realizing them, you become the silent observer who deciphers the hidden patterns of human behavior. This clarity allows you to see the futility of many social concerns and the repetition of cycles that trap the common mind. It is not a feeling of superiority, but an intellectual honesty that prevents you from unconsciously participating in rituals that lack a real purpose. For the avatar, this distance is what guarantees your freedom. You cease to be a piece on the board and become the one who understands the rules of the game. This journey through solitude reveals the final truth. You are not an incomplete Lego piece searching for another to fit into. You are already a complete set in yourself. Society tries to impose the narrative that happiness requires constant external validation, but the awakened mind discovers that your own consciousness is the richest and most rewarding company that can exist. When you learn to inhabit your own silence, your relationship with others ceases to be a need based on scarcity and becomes a choice based on abundance. You do not run to solitude to escape people. You run to solitude to find yourself, ensuring that when you decide to return to the world, you will bring with you something of real value, born of depth and not of the surface. Therefore, if the world looks upon your isolation with strangeness or fear, understand that they are merely reacting to what they cannot achieve, the total autonomy of the mind. Your ability to be alone is a sign that your intelligence has reached a level of mastery that dispenses with the applause of the crowd to validate your existence. Honor your nature. Cultivate your inner world with the same dedication that an architect devotes to a cathedral, for it is in this sacred space that your truth resides. If you felt these words resonated with your essence and brought clarity to your silent journey, know that your search for truth is what unites us. Subscribe to our network and continue to awaken the avatar within you. Do not let the noise of the world drown out the voice of your own consciousness. The journey is deep, but clarity is our ultimate reward. See you in the next video.